I went to a massive junior high school many years ago. We had two grades in the school, 8th and 9th grade, and over 2,000 students. Huge, massive school. And what I remember about my freshman year, my 9th grade year, is our football team. Now, obviously, I didn't play on that team unless I was the punter or the kicker, but no, I did not play. I was not big enough, strong enough to play on the team. But our team that year, again, massive school. So it was it was not in Texas, it was in South Carolina. So it would be like, Katie Taylor Memorial, it's massive. But our 9th grade football team, my classmates, that year went undefeated and unscored on. That's quite an accomplishment. It's undefeated, right? Didn't lose a single game, but no one ever scored a single point on the Dent Mighty Trojans. That was the name of my high school, was Dent, and it looked like a big dent. But we had a heck of a football team. Now, when I moved to Texas many moons ago, I discovered what football was really all about. Because here in the Lone Star State, football is not a sport. It is a religion, and it is a way of life. If you don't believe me, when you flip on the TV today after this worship service and you're watching, I don't care any team, I don't care whether it's Kansas City or some California team or New York team, chances are that quarterback that's getting paid $100 trillion a year went to high school right here in Texas, right? We dominate. This is how it is. Even the backup quarterbacks are from Texas as well. Anyway, I've thought about, being in Texas these many years, I've thought a lot about football, actually. And I've thought about it not just as a sport, something that's fun to do on Saturday and Sunday and watch, but I've thought about it I've tried to think about it from a 35,000 feet level. When you get 35,000 feet in a plane, the guy wakes up, "This is your captain speaking. I've just turned off the no seatbelt light. I just woke up from my nap." But anyway, if you look at football from 35,000 feet and ask the question, what is football? What is football? Do you know what football is? Football is organized warfare. Football is all about war games. Think about it. You have your tribe, you have your tribal colors, you wear your team, your tribe's colors, the other people wear their colors, you paint your face, you have chants, you have songs, you have music, you have people yelling. You gather in these massive stadiums with thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of Michigan, Alabama people, right, to watch this war. You say, war? Absolutely, it's war. These guys get on what? Their war gear. They put on cleats on their feet. They put knee pads on, shin pads on, flak jackets on. Dan Pastorini, someone help me preach. They put on shoulder pads, helmets, face masks, mouth guard. And they're going to go out and do battle. They're not going to try to put the ball through a hoop or, base, I'm safe. No. You go out there and you rip them and you kill them and you hit them, you ring them, right? I mean, that's football. And at the end of the war, you have a winner and a loser. And if you win enough, then your tribe, your team will get a lot of money. Okay? It's a war. So what if one of these great high school lads from Texas, who's going to be the starting quarterback on almost every game you watch today, What if they decided, you know what, I'm going to go into battle today. I'm going to get on the field, and I'm not wearing anything. I'm just going to wear my street clothes. I'm just going to just dress like this, and a little pink shirt and a little sweater. But I'm going to play because I came here to war. I came here to do battle. What is going to happen? I don't care how fast and quick they are, like Mahomes or Kyler Murray. It doesn't matter. They're going to get smashed. They're going to get tackled. Their bones are going to be broken. And they could actually lose their very life. Why? Because they're entering into a type of warfare, a type of physical contact without the right equipment. Now, many times, we go out into our worlds, we go out into our schools, we go out into our jobs, we go out into our relationships, we go out and face the rough and rugged realities of Monday morning and all that follows, and we're not properly equipped. Because all of us here, whether we recognize it or not, are involved in a type of warfare, a spiritual warfare that has much higher stakes than the football game that you and I will watch after church today. So what do we need to be equipped with to do battle in life and to do battle in this culture war that we find ourselves in right here in 2022? Well, the answer is right in the book of I heard someone say it, Ephesians. Ephesians, chapter number 6. It's the last chapter in the book. And in this, we find out the equipment that you and I need to wear. Paul lays it out for us. And by the way, he's writing to people. He himself is in prison in Rome. He's writing to people who are Christians, primarily, who are getting persecuted, perhaps thrown in prison. Some will be thrown right there in the Colosseum in front of the stadium to be fed to the lions and tigers. This is a very dangerous life or death situation. He's not, whistling Dixie and giving nice little things that we can crochet onto a pillow or put on a t-shirt. No, this is a war. He says, finally, be strong in the Lord and his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take a stand against the devil's schemes. The devil is scheming. We have an enemy. Many times the enemy is ourselves. Many times the enemy is the devil and his forces. And we have to put on God's armor. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood. It's not really against people. But it's against the rulers and authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. We're engaged in spiritual warfare. Therefore, put on the full armor of God. Put on your cleats, put on your helmet, put on your shoulder pads, put on this armor, he's saying, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to what? Stand. Stand your ground. After you've done everything, stand. Verse 14, stand. Stand firm with the belt of truth buckled around your waist and with the breastplate of righteousness in place. Now, we've been doing this series on culture, looking at the different things that are happening in our world today. I've done a lot of research. All of our teaching team has. I've read philosophers, theologians, Democrats, Republicans, atheists, Christians, all of these people who are saying in our country today and in the Western world, we need to push back against people who have fallen prey to critical theory or neo-Marxism or wokeism. Everyone who says we need to push back will say this one thing, that we as a people must stand. We must stand in the cultural space we find ourselves in, and we must stand, obviously, as Christians and in the church. Paul gives us the equipment we need to have. And I've made it an acrostic. I'm not really an acrostic kind of person. I think they're kind of goofy, but when they work, they're gold, okay? So, I don't know if this is gold, but at least it's silver, all right? Stand. The S stands for Strength. There's a muscle under there. There is one, I promise. Strength. You got to have strength. He says what? Be strong. How? Be physically strong? Yeah, it's good to be physically strong. But he says be strong in the Lord. He told Joshua chapter 1, be strong and courageous because God is with you. Our strength is in him. Our strength, as we've been singing about, is in Christ. The S is for strength. The T is for truth. We saw that a few weeks ago. We have the belt of truth. We believe that there is a reality outside of us, that's external of us, that's true, that's objective, that's right. We believe there's a God who is holy, forever separate. He set the standards for what's right and wrong in our lives. He's given us a conscience so we know what's right and wrong. And so we know what truth is. We don't know truth completely, but we know enough truth to organize our life and to organize our community and groups of people. The A in the acrostic is for answers. Answers. We need to have answers for the questions that people are asking. And people are asking questions like, who am I? What's my identity? Where do I fit in? How can I make a difference? And we've got to be able to give answers. Answers to the questions that people are asking in our home, in school, workplace, co-workers, and in the culture at large. We've got to be able to give answers. And when you look back at the inception of the Christian faith, which would be in about 33 AD, the answer that Paul gave was the gospel. The message that he took into the Roman world under great duress, under great distress, under great persecution, the answer he gave was the gospel. The gospel. The good news about what God has done for us in Christ. And a massive element or reality, if you would, practical application, is this second piece of the armor, this righteousness, this breastplate of righteousness that covers our heart and covers our soul. Remember Romans 1:16 following? He writes, I'm not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God unto salvation to everyone who believes, the Jew first, also to the Greek. For in the gospel, what? A righteousness from God is revealed. God is forever holy, holy, holy. He is 100% righteous and holy and pure. He will forever be that. At the same time, we are sinful. We have messed up. We have fallen short of God's standard. So righteousness, perfect righteousness, 100% perfect righteousness is God's standard, and that's something that you don't have, and it's something that I don't have. So where can we get this righteousness that we so desperately need? Where can we get this righteousness? Now, let me say this about righteousness, what we're about to talk about here. How many of you guys watch Game 2, switching sports here if we can, of the Astros versus the Yankees? You watch Game 2? You watch Bregman hit that 3-run homer in the Crawford boxes? Yes, right? Yes, you can clap for that. Of course you can. Smack. When something happens like that in a baseball game or say something happens in a football game or a basketball game, that play right there is what we call a game changer. It's a game changer. It changes everything. So as you grow in your relationship with God, what I've discovered in my life is that you have these moments in your life. Have you discovered that are game changers? They're game-changing moments. God allows you to see something that you didn't see. I'd been a Christian for 15 years, and I didn't understand the righteousness of God in Christ. I didn't understand this breastplate of righteousness. I was trying to earn my own righteousness. I was trying to show God how good and how holy I am. Therefore, he should accept me. And I never measured up. And I tried again, and I tried again, and I tried again. And in my church growing up, you could come down front to rededicate your life. Every Sunday, I wanted to rededicate my life. And then you can rededicate your rededications the next week. And so it was frustrating, right? Talk about Catholic guilt. There's also Baptist guilt and Pentecostal guilt. There's all kind of guilt. There's all kind of shame when you realize God is holy. He is righteous. If you can be a little bit honest, or you know that you're not. But here's what God does for us, and here's the game changer, is that Jesus Christ not only came and died and rose again on a cross for you. He didn't just die for you and rise again that you could be forgiven, though he did that, and that's critical. Jesus also lived a life of 33 years, perfect obedience for you and for me. He earned a perfect righteousness that you and I can never earn and will never earn. That's what he did for us. It's Christ's very righteousness. He didn't just die for us and rise for us. He lived for us, undefeated, unscored on. He earned all A+ for 33 years on his moral or righteous report card. When we trust in God in Christ and say, forgive me, God forgives us. He wipes the slate clean. That's negative, right? The positive is he accredits to our account the very righteousness of Jesus Christ so that we can be forgiven and totally accepted and 100% righteous before God now and whenever we pass away. That blew my mind. I've been in the church. I'm sure I'd heard it from Bible study teachers and pastors, but it just didn't sink into my little brain until, I don't know, in my 20s, late 20s, I started to, oh, wow, this righteousness, oh, on Christ, the solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. How can I get right with God? How can I get right with this God who is holy forever? How do I get straight with him? How can I get right with him? Can I clean up my act? No. Can I read enough Bible verses? No. Can I pray enough? No. Can I sacrifice enough? No. I've got to totally trust in someone else's goodness, someone else's righteousness to make me acceptable before God. Yeah. So, let me say something that I've gotten letters and emails on over the years, that's been misunderstood. I'll try not to do that today. Martin Luther, who was the crazy guy that started the Reformation back in the 1500s, had a protege by the name of Philip Melanchthon. And you have to realize Philip Melanchthon and Luther were coming out of a very strict monastery-like existence. Not as an analogy, they actually lived in monastery that were monks. They were just so, passionate and trying to be puritanical to live out this righteousness and to earn their righteousness. And Philip Melanchthon, this protege of Luther, always felt guilty. Like one day he felt like he was going to heaven. The next day he felt like he was going to hell. The next minute he was going to heaven. The next minute he was going to hell. And he's going back and forth, back and forth. You're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. And it was driving him crazy with shame and guilt. Luther wrote Philip a letter and said, because Philip had written him a letter telling him what was going on, and Luther wrote him a letter back and said, Philip, go out and sin boldly. Go out and sin boldly. That's what I got the letters for. But believe in Christ more boldly still. The gospel is completely outside of you. Okay? And that phrase, the gospel is outside of you, the gospel is external to you, this righteousness is outside of you. It's something that you will never earn. You'll never measure up. You're not good enough. You have to receive this utter mercy, this gift of righteousness. It's outside of you. It doesn't change. That changed my life. And it changed Philip Melanchthon's life too. Now again, Luther is not encouraging people to go sin. Woohoo! What a great day at 11:11. Ben says sin. No. I am not saying that. What I believe Luther was saying, help me out here, Gabe, is that he was saying that your little sins or your big sins are not that big a deal in comparison to the massive power of the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's what I think he was saying. And when he said the gospel is outside of you, it's external to you, that means that the gospel is all about what God has done for you in Christ Jesus in time, space, history. So when people ask me, as they do in this tradition, hey, when were you saved? I could say with a straight face and all honesty and pass a polygraph, I was saved 2,000 years ago on a hill outside of Jerusalem. That's when I was saved. That is my hope. He is my righteousness. And so it's outside of us, this righteousness that we need to be accepted before holy God, this righteousness that covers us is not our own. It is Christ's very righteousness. One Puritan writer put it this way, a Puritan. Those cats were pretty dang uptight. But he said this, he said, I have taken all of my good deeds, all of my own personal righteousness, and put them in one pile. I've taken all of my sins that I've ever committed and put them in the same pile. And I have run to Christ and his righteousness, and in him I have found peace. Righteousness, Christ's righteousness, is the only defense we have in this warfare of accusations and shame that others will reap upon us, but that Satan himself loves to accuse us of. And whenever I feel condemned, whenever I feel guilty, I'll own it. Yes, I am guilty. Yes, I have done this. But then I'll point to the one outside of me, and I'll point to his righteousness as my very own. And then I have peace. Peace. So righteousness is a gift, and it's a goal. Right? Righteousness, this external righteousness I've been talking about today, is, it's about right standing, but righteousness is also about right living. Because God has given us this righteousness, this breastplate of righteousness that allows us to be accepted before him. Doesn't mean that I go, wow, I'm going to go out and do whatever I want to do. No, God's Spirit is inside of me and inside of you if you trust in him, and he empowers us to start living a right life. Not a perfect life, but a faithful life. A life that desires to produce righteousness, though this righteousness is never enough to be accepted before God. We still want to live this right and new way. So, my encouragement to you today, my encouragement to myself today, is that as we go out into our life, as we go out into the world, as we continue to face the multiplicity of attacks and our culture today, and you've got to put on that armor. You've got to put on your equipment to be on the field, to be in the battlefield. God gives us equipment. He gives us his very armor, the truth and this righteousness that is a gift from him.